showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America, together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. And you may note that our friend Lynn Morris is missing today. He is under the weather because of the weather, having a reaction to the pollen like so many of us do this time of year. So he's taken the day off to rest and recuperate. And this is our first show back after 2 weeks, because last week we had a tornado watch here in Springfield and decided just not to, play the odds. And so we're glad to be back with you this morning. And we have a special guest. Her name is Christine Porter. I met Christine because of a mutual friend we have, Jen Barker, and Christine and Jen had been the co-founders of, it's called Informed Health Choice Missouri. And I met Jen because we had both been at the Capitol testifying at a hearing on a particular bill having to do with the hospital's, you might say, involvement in the mRNA vaccine issue. And so we went up to testify about what it meant to inform patients of what the effects of this experimental vaccine might be, and what actually patients are being told versus what information should be told in terms of potential injuries and so on. So Jen is the mother of a child who had experienced vaccine injury, and I became more and more interested in what she and Christine were doing. So I thought I'd have Christine on the show because Jen recommended her. Her background is in nursing. And why don't you tell us a little more about your background, Christine, and how you and Jen got together and established Informed Health Choice Missouri? Christine? No. Oh, dear. Can you call?
Yeah, she was on your phone, right?
Okay. Let me see if I can. She had told me before she could hear me, but apparently we're having technical difficulties now.
You sure there's nothing here? I'm getting a little bit of audio from it. But...
Hello.
Hey, Christine, I can't get a signal from you. I mean,
I know. I don't know what's going on here. I'm sorry. I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
No. So I'm hearing you through a speakerphone right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have me on mute?
No, that's what I was checking.
You might be able to do it that way.
Okay. If I put the microphone near the speakerphone on my phone, we'll be able to pick you up.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I should have verified all this beforehand.
Yeah, you could hear me, but I wasn't able to hear you. So there you go. That sounds like a plan. Let's see if we can keep that going. Our producer's going to check you now and see if we can hear you through the microphone. Can you tell us about you and Jen and how you had met and your background as a nurse?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my research on vaccines started years after I was in the nursing field. So I started questioning vaccines, doing research, and getting feedback. So it's really that's great with this. Okay. So I just started meeting people in different fields that hadn't vaccinated, and I thought, well, that's really odd. And I was learning in the nutrition field about the immune system and how powerful the immune system is. And when I started researching,
I can hear you perfectly.
yeah, it's giving me feedback. So like my voice is delayed. So it's
Okay, but that's not coming through here.
okay. That's
We're
good.
getting her good.
Maybe
You
if
may
I
have a
just
speaker she
step
needs to turn
away
off.
from that. Do you mind if I'm not on camera?
Actually, you're perfect right where you are now.
Okay. Okay, so
Can
started
you tip
researching.
can you tip your camera down on so that there you are? Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, okay. So it just really came down to, after I'd done some research, the question I had to ask myself was, are you so pro-vaccine because you were taught a lot about vaccines, or because you were told every day safe and effective? And I realized that I had not been educated as a nurse on vaccines, on their ingredients, on the potential deadly effects, and just nurses and doctors are not taught about vaccines.
You're taught how to
You're
administer them, but you're not taught about the content.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Right. We're not told ingredients. We're not told the type of side effects. They would just tell us mild side effects. And doctors are the same way. So we learn the schedule. So that really came to a realization that I was not educated on the topic, so I had to do my own research.
But people were
So I
trusting
dug
you.
into all the
You were the face of the medical industry to on the ground with the patients.
Exactly. And my first job was giving vaccines to babies,
Okay.
which is kind of ironic. So that's when I really started digging in and researching. And then years later, I met Jen, and we started IHCM.
And how did you meet her? Was it through your church? Was it through her experience with her daughter?
It's very interesting how it all came together, because I was going to a health food store and talking to the owner about vaccines, and she said, "You need to meet Jen."
Oh.
And that's really how we got together, and it ended up that our kids were going to the same school that year. So we really connected, and IHCM was founded in 2016 as Vax St. Louis. We were hosting the Vax movies at the theaters. And so our grassroots team just grew to about 5.
And
And then over
who
the years,
where did you cultivate this team? Was it just, again, interested citizens, or was it other
yes,
nurses?
it was
Uh-huh.
other parents mainly.
Mhm.
We had a researcher, a scientific researcher that was a mom, or that is a mom. She's still involved, but mostly moms,
Mhm.
grassroots people that have concerns about what they're giving their children. So that's kind of where it started.
And is
And then
Informed Health Choice part of a network? You're Informed Health Choice Missouri. Is that part of a nationwide network, or is this a standalone organization here in the state?
we grew over the next few years, and created a 501c3. And then in April 2019, we grew into a 501c4.
So this is before the COVID episode.
Yes,
Mhm.
before the COVID, right.
Mhm.
And that's where Jen and I started going around doing presentations on just vaccines in general and educating people. And I can't tell you how many people have learned so much. I mean, on vaccines. And that's where it started. And then once COVID happened, we added our COVID presentation to it.
Okay.
So we go to businesses, churches, individuals, and give these presentations.
Mhm. So, much like what I do in explaining to the public about what happens in education, I'm not really received by the education industry. It's not like school boards will invite me and say, hey, we want to know more about that. They rather insulate themselves within the system. And it's me talking to the public quite a bit. Would you say that was your experience?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
This is a controversial topic, and people get really hyped up on both sides. And we're just here to inform people. We don't really care what decision you make. We just want to make sure that you have the right information on both sides, because we're only told one side.
Mhm.
And how can a judge make a decision on whether somebody's guilty or innocent if they don't have both sides of the picture?
Mhm.
And that's what I feel like has happened in our society, is that we've only been given one side. So that's the only choice for people.
So, how do you equip parents when they come to your meetings to go back to, when they take their children to an appointment for consideration of getting a vaccination? How do you equip them to ask questions?
Yeah, we first educate them on what the vaccines actually are. That is really the starting point for any parent, is to you get out the package insert and you look at it yourself. The medical community thinks that you're not capable of doing that, but you are. You're very capable. So to get the package insert and go through it, and not just the sheet that they give you when you go in to get a vaccine, that does not give you all the information you need. That is definitely sugar-coated on that sheet. So we start with package insert, learning the ingredients, learning potential side effects. And most of our presentations come from information from the CDC and the FDA and the WHO. So these are organizations that most people look up to. But if you don't know how to research and where to look, then you won't be informed.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with that, and then it's the parents' decision after that.
And so, how do you educate them about their ability to make a decision that might be counter to the doctor's advice?
Right. So the first equipping of information and then deciphering it and weighing the benefits and the risks.
Mhm.
Also learning about the immune system and how God made our immune system and what the purpose of it is. And so once they're equipped with that information, they feel more confident to make the decision themselves instead of just leaning on the doctor and having them make the decision for them.
And you give a PowerPoint presentation, and do you equip them with handouts that they can review?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the actual package inserts, we will print those out and go through them and show them, well, look at these, how they've done their science, that most vaccines, or all vaccines really, have not used a placebo in their studies. And that is the gold standard of science, is you need to have a placebo when you're being able to compare.
And so what's been the response? So you've had Informed Health Choice Missouri for how many years now?
Since 2016.
2016. And what's been the response? Do you continue to grow?
Yeah, we have over 6,000 members today.
Wow.
And a lot of it is, Facebook connections. Some people are more active than others. We do only have a small group that are pretty active, such as going to the Capitol and reading legislation.
Well, that was my next question, because that's how I'd met Jen. We were at the same hearing. So how do you organize people to read the bills and testify at hearings about what their experiences have been, or how they would like their legislators, the information they want their legislators to consider?
Yeah, it's tough because not everybody wants to get involved, and as you probably know, don't want to get involved in politics and such.
I didn't either, by the way. I didn't. That was not on my agenda. I did not see myself having, the past 10 years just was not on my radar. And somehow God gets through to you and says, but you have the information other people need, and so you're basically, this is your burden. And you feel that the media isn't sharing the truth, and somehow you've got to get it out there. So you do what you can to access them through grassroots networks. That's how it came about for me. Yeah. So tell me about going to Jeff City and testifying on bills. How do you recognize the bills you want to address?
So our focus is mainly medical freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want people to have informed consent and know that they have the right to make a decision. We are in a society today where they just want to be told what to do, and people have to take their power, and that's by knowledge and letting others know that I can make this decision. This is my body, because our focus is informed consent about any medical procedure, and you have the right to say no. People are scared.
Mm-hmm. The courts have backed you up, by the way, and that must be very gratifying to know that the information you were giving to the public was countercultural at the time, because the CDC and the employers and the government, were basically mandating these injections. And the courts have said since then, you are out of line. So actually you were telling the truth, but it took the court system a couple of years to rule that, yes, this should not happen again.
Yeah, and that's sad that it's always after the fact.
Did you
and that's
partic-
what we help people else.
Did your organization participate in any of those court cases?
No, I believe were those federal cases.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
no, we didn't.
Yeah.
We're mainly Missouri.
Okay. So what kinds of experiences have people reported to you that have motivated them to be connected to Informed Health Choice Missouri?
I think, especially after COVID, people started questioning a lot of things, questioning the medical community, how they handled such as treatment for COVID. And so really people started coming out of the woodwork at that point. So the trust just really went down after COVID.
Mm-hmm. And how did
So
they
we had
find
a lot
you?
of people reach out.
Did they find you through your website?
Usually our Facebook,
No.
and then also when we would do presentations, we would get our name out there, and then referrals, just people that are already involved, and then their friends, start questioning. So it just kind of grew that way.
What have they reported to you about their experiences?
Experiences with what?
Well, with reactions to the injection or
Okay, the injection,
yeah,
side effects.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We've had some really severe cases. Now, keep in mind that different lots are different. So there are some lots of vaccines that are very dangerous, and then others not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that people had an immediate reaction and severe are some of the worst lots.
Mm-hmm.
But especially heart attacks, heart issues,
Mm-hmm.
clots, blood clots,
Mm-hmm.
because this spike protein has this affinity towards the vessels in the body, the inner lining of the vessels, and causing inflammatory reactions. We've had some really strange effects, just neurological effects. But the heart is a huge one.
Myocarditis.
Just young people falling over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Recently, there was a story that AstraZeneca withdrew its production of the mRNA vaccine. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, and I thought about that, and I feel like there's always distractions going on, and I feel like they came out with that and pulled the AstraZeneca to make people feel like they're on top of this and that they care about your health. Well, the other vaccines are just as bad.
Mm.
So I think that is a distraction to make people feel like, oh, they're doing something.
So have you been following the WHO pandemic treaty developments?
I haven't really followed that personally.
Well, basically what's happening is it's falling apart. What the whole plan is that there would be an agreement, and this word agreement was used so that the United States Senate, which has to ratify treaties, could be circumvented. So if you call it an agreement rather than a treaty, you don't need the Senate involved. And the Biden administration was moving forward with this support for a treaty that would put the WHO in charge of the management of a pandemic, much like it sought during the COVID pandemic. But across the globe, countries are pulling out and saying, no, not today. So the treaty, the WHO had hoped that the treaty would be ratified by the end of this month, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I just think that it's because of education through organizations like yours that people who are concerned and are aware are contacting their legislators, which is the whole point. People have to understand that liberty is theirs to lose, and that it's not other people who fight for your liberty, it's you who has to fight. I had a telephone conversation with a woman from the Kansas City area who said, we're so grateful for people like you who fight for us. And I said, no, I don't fight for you, I fight with you. I cannot be in Kansas City where your issue is. I can equip you with information, but you're the one who has to go in there and assert yourself, assert your rights, and claim back the territory that was taken from you. So I'm sure that in terms of, I don't want to refer to children as territory, but they are your responsibility to protect. So it is every parent's responsibility to become fully informed and to make decisions. But I can tell you from my own experience, the trust that you invest in people who have committed their lives to the health industry, you think have committed their lives to you. And it's not the same thing. You have to be your own advocate. You have to be your own informed decision maker, not just about your health, but the health of innocent children who cannot assimilate this information and digest it. You are the one God has put in that place to do that for them. So what I was wondering then is, what's your opinion on this medical protocol, the way it keeps growing for, I think it's come up since I was raising my child, it was maybe 5 vaccines were mandated. Now I'm hearing a vaccine schedule for children that's up to 52. Is that correct? 52 vaccinations.
Okay, I've actually got a board I'm going to show you.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
So this gives you a visual. So in 1983, we did total doses of 24. Now this says 2020, but I added on a few down here. Total doses today would be 72.
Oh, 72.
So visually, I mean, you can see how much that's gone up.
Yes.
And when the 1986 Act got put in place, they could add so many more vaccines on there because they weren't liable anymore.
So they're not even doing the research because they have no liability. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
Well, they're doing research, I have to put in quotes, because the research is not quality research.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not true science.
And it was Dr. Fauci who pushed that legislation, was it not?
Oh yeah, he had a lot to do with
Yeah.
all the things going on.
I have a presentation that I do on the history of social emotional learning. And one of the biggest advocates was the American Humanist Association. And I just stun the audience when I show they have an annual award that they give to the most effective humanist in terms of publicizing the humanist policies and so on. And in 2021, it was Dr. Anthony Fauci who was the winner of the American Humanist Association Award, which tells you a lot about the media that came out trying to explain his value system and what he believed in, and how that affected his decision making on national policy towards the management of COVID. So yeah, we have. This is the cause of, I think, the controversies in our culture, is where we stand as people with a biblical worldview versus people who eliminate God from their worldview by design, and then impose policies derived from that worldview on us, which is if you understand that, then you understand that you must get into the arena, you must voice your worldview, or be a victim. That's what it boils down to. But
Absolutely. We need to use our voice.
particularly in the line of activism that you are doing, it's not just about you as an individual, it's about you protecting children who can't do that for themselves. And frankly, that's what I do in the education arena as well. Try to give a voice to the innocent who are too young to raise their own voices, and hopefully educate them so that they do assume the responsibilities of liberty. It's not about licentiousness. It's not about the freedom to do anything you want. It's about protecting the rights that God has given you, including the right to make decisions about your own health. So I sure do appreciate it. Christine, what is something we haven't covered yet that you think is important for people to know?
Just to know that, you're very capable of doing your own research, getting the support of other people that have already been through there, and knowing you're capable. They'll make you feel like you're stupid, but you can. You're able to do that.
Which is based on the expert model. I'm going to take a minute to remind our audience that we have some wonderful sponsors that Lynn is very enthusiastic to tell you about. Brad Pistow from Trinity Insurance and Financial Services. Brad Pistow has been a longtime supporter of this show and of Lynn Morris. And if you are interested in the investment services that Brad Pistow offers, his number is 417-581-9222. And another sponsor is Springfield Nissan and Springfield Kia. Their number is 417-882-3838. And our producer is running their information across the bottom of the screen. So if you didn't catch that, you can view it and write it down. If your memory is like mine, that's a good thing. So how can people reach you, and how can they support what you are doing?
Yeah, our website is ihcm.info, and we have lots of resources on there. And so that's a main contact there.
So if they don't necessarily want to communicate, to make appointments for maybe you to come down and speak, but you do that, correct?
No, we do that. Yeah.
And you travel the whole state. I know you've come to Springfield for me before.
We've gone to a lot of places. They definitely could contact us directly if they want to put a group together, or a Zoom or whatever, just to get this information out, because our whole goal is to get truth out, and we want to bring those documents to you and support you in any way that we can with making medical decisions.
And so do you restrict your services to the state of Missouri, people in Missouri, or as your...
No, we've talked to people outside of Missouri. I mean, Missouri is our focus, but definitely I've talked to people out of state to help them, like such as exemptions. When we were going through the whole mandates and all, we would help people write exemptions, but there's a certain way to write it, that you need to write it correctly. We're willing to help anybody that is willing to listen.
Okay. Yeah, that was another recent court case I read, that universities who would not honor religious exemptions for students have now been held as being hostile to religion. And so that is, if this would ever happen again, people should be aware that courts have ruled against the universities for that. And you might put that in your repertoire of information that students going to college for the first time could be aware of their rights. Yeah, that might be a whole nother group to focus on is the young adults who are leaving the protection of home and going to have to advocate for themselves. That would be an interesting project, you might say. So is there anything else you would like to tell legislators in terms of what our needs are as citizens of Missouri to affirm our rights over our bodies?
What would I say to legislators?
Legislators, yes.
Yeah, that was the whole thing about going to the Capitol, is to be able to express the importance of our medical rights, our freedoms. Yeah, for them, I would say you need to read every bill that you sponsor or any bill that you're voting on. If you cannot read it, then you should not be voting on it. Because there's so much junk coming through that Capitol, especially the last few years. There is an agenda that they're pushing, and it's very sneaky. Just like they did with the school choice bill. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I have to
our
agree.
focus is on medical freedom, but you know about that.
Yeah, the things they're calling education freedom actually is a shield against something much more, I would say, nefarious in terms of sinking public dollars into a private black hole. So, yeah, we'll do another show on that.
Yeah, right.
Series.
And the people that call themselves Republicans, they are not fighting for our freedoms like they should be. And we are watching these people. We are evaluating who they're getting money from. That's important to know.
So do you have a scorecard?
Yeah, we do make scorecards, but we go deeper into it than just that. So, because the scorecards are basically what they're saying, and a lot of these legislators sound like they're right on board. They sound like they're for complete freedom, and they're against abortion and all this. But then you see some bills that they're okay with. And I'm not okay with a little bit of evil in a bill, because a little bit of evil makes it an evil bill. And they're trying to say we need to work with each other. Well, that's compromise in my eyes. And that's how we are where we are today, by compromise.
Yeah, you just fall off the cliffs more slowly. I agree with you there. Yes,
Exactly.
Somebody has to put the brakes on. We do have a few legislators like that, but they tend to be marginalized by leadership because, leadership just
total control.
Yeah. So
I
the
must say, I'm proud of Mike Moon. He has been consistent.
Yes,
That's the one name I can say.
in being constitutional and in doing what he says. I have to agree with you there. Yeah. So, what else do you want parents to know as they prepare for upcoming entry into school, or things that they should know in case there's another lockdown like there was before in schools?
Right. Okay, so it's specific to lockdown or specific to vaccine?
Well, let's start from the beginning. If you're going to enroll your child for the first time in kindergarten, what should parents know before you might say expose their children's health record to a school system?
Yeah. So I would say first is knowing that the nurse that is working at these schools, they don't know anything. I have talked to these nurses, and they will put out a letter to all the parents, and they will say, you need to have this vaccine before they continue. And we have spoken to some of these nurses, and when you call them and say, why did you not mention an exemption in your letter? Because this is by law, we can take an exemption. And they will say, oh, okay, well, yeah, we're okay with an exemption. And so our next question is, well, why aren't you going to put this in the letter? Because that's by law, we can take an exemption.
Okay.
So the nurses don't know. They are just being pushed from above of what to do.
So parents should perhaps look at your website first and get resources about what their rights are before they enroll their child in school.
Yeah, I would say this is all new to them. They would probably feel more comfortable actually talking to a person. So Jen and I are always available
Okay.
to talk to people, because when you first start researching this, you're so unsure.
Yes.
And so
Especially if you're sending your
I mean,
first
the
child to
website's great,
school.
but-
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. You're going into new territory, and it's so scary. It's like, oh, well, what if my child gets this disease? And you're going through all these questions.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good advice. Parents can contact you and find a resource for informing them about what the school's not telling them. That's excellent resource of information, and they can contact you through your website, correct? There's a link available.
Yeah, you can go through there or just call us.
All right.
Happy to give one.
Very good. And your number to call is?
Mine is 314-517-6035.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. This has been very informative. I'm sure there's parents relieved that there's somebody that they can call and get the other side of the information. And so God bless you and God bless Jen. And we'll look forward to hearing more about Informed Health Choice Missouri and what you're doing to inform all of the citizens of Missouri about their freedom for health choice. Thanks so much, Jen.
Yeah, thank you.
We're the United States of America. Unity and